The summer sun was relentless, and the heat seemed to seep into every corner of Leah's house. The fans were no match for the heavy air, and even the cool water from the tap couldn't bring relief. Leah's family had grown used to the long, hot days. She lived with her parents, her younger brother Jay, and her grandmother, who had moved in with them years ago. Life was simple, yet the summer heat made everything feel heavier, slower. Leah's grandmother was old and frail. Once a vibrant woman, she now spent her days lying in bed, her energy drained by age and illness. Her room was filled with quiet whispers of the past, an old photograph of her husband, trinkets from the family farm, and the soft hum of memories that seemed to play only for her. She often spoke to her husband's photograph, her voice tinged with both longing and sorrow. One afternoon, as the sun poured its golden rays through the window, Leah sat by her grandmother's bedside. Her mother entered the room, carrying a small tray with food and a glass of water. The old woman stirred, her voice weak but determined. "Leah," she said softly, "I need water from the farm's well." "It's in the bucket. The water there is special." Leah blinked, confused. "Grandma, we don't live near the farm anymore," she said gently. "We have good water here from the tap." Her mother placed a hand on Leah's shoulder and spoke in a low voice. "She's not thinking clearly, just let her rest." But the grandmother wasn't ready to let go of her request. "No," she insisted, her voice suddenly stronger. "The water from the well will cure me." "Please, Leah, go to the farm." Leah glanced at her mother, who shook her head. The farm was near a volcano, a place deemed unsafe by the local authorities. "We can't go there, Ma," her mother explained patiently. "It's too dangerous now. Soldiers are guarding the roads." The old woman didn't seem to hear her. Her eyes, filled with both desperation and determination, were fixed on Leah. "Bring me the water, please," she whispered again. Leah felt a tug at her heart. The well her grandmother spoke of had been part of many stories told during her childhood. It was a symbol of family, resilience, and the simple joys of life on the farm. How could she ignore such a heartfelt plea? "I'll go," Leah said quietly. Her mother looked at her in alarm. "Leah, you mustn't. It's too dangerous." But Leah had made up her mind. She went to find her father and Jay, explaining the situation. "The farm is near the volcano," her father warned her. "It's not safe." "You shouldn't go." Jay, ever the supportive younger brother, stepped forward. "If Leah's going, I'll go with her. We'll get the water for Grandma." The family debated late into the evening, but Leah and Jay remained firm. Early the next morning, they packed for the journey. Leah filled her bag with bread, a sausage, and a bottle of water. As she prepared to leave, she paused by her grandmother's room. "We'll be back soon, Grandma," Leah said. Her grandmother smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with gratitude. The adventure was about to begin, and though Leah and Jay didn't know it yet, this trip would change their lives forever. If you enjoy stories like this and want to learn English in a fun and engaging way, consider subscribing to our channel. Join us as we explore more adventures and learn together. The morning air was still heavy with heat as Leah and Jay stepped outside, their small bags slung over their shoulders. The sky above was a brilliant blue, but a faint haze lingered near the horizon, a reminder of the active volcano not far from their destination. Despite the warnings from their parents, Leah and Jay were determined. Their grandmother's wish was too important to ignore. The siblings followed the main road out of town, their shoes kicking up small clouds of dust with every step. The world around them seemed both familiar and strange. Familiar because it was the same road they had walked many times before, but strange because of the weight of their mission. Leah carried a quiet resolve, her mind filled with memories of her grandmother's stories about the farm. She could almost picture the well, surrounded by tall grass, its wooden cover slightly worn but sturdy. Jay, on the other hand, tried to lighten the mood. "Do you think the water from the well will actually work like Grandma says?" he asked, his tone half joking. Leah shrugged. "I don't know, but it's what she wants. That's what matters." The journey wasn't without its challenges. The sun climbed higher, and the heat became oppressive. Leah and Jay stopped under the sparse shade of a tree to drink some water. "It feels like we're walking through an oven," Jay muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. As they continued, the landscape grew quieter. Houses became fewer, and soon there were none at all. The once lively road turned into a stretch of dry grass and cracked earth. A checkpoint appeared ahead, marked by a wooden barrier and a single soldier standing watch. The soldier was young, with a friendly face and a rifle slung over his shoulder. "Where are you heading?" he asked, looking at them with a mix of curiosity and concern. "To our grandmother's farm," Leah replied. "She's sick and wants water from the well there," the soldier chuckled. "Magic water from the well, that's a first. The volcano's quiet today, but be careful. Don't stay there too long," Jay grinned. "If the water works, we'll bring you some." The soldier laughed and waved them through, his expression softening. "Good luck, kids." A little farther along, the siblings came across a small house near a bridge. It was a simple structure, with a garden in the front and a well at the side. A cheerful woman came out to greet them, her small red dog wagging its tail excitedly. "Where are you going on such a hot day?" she asked, handing them a pitcher of cold water. "To our grandmother's farm," Jay answered. "She's not well and believes the water from the farm's well can help her." The woman raised an eyebrow. "That's quite the journey. Why don't you take some water from my well?" "It's fresh and good." Jay looked at Leah, hopeful. "That's a great idea. Leah, we could take this water and go back." Leah shook her head. "Thanks, but we have to go to the farm. It's what Grandma asked for." The woman smiled, admiring Leah's determination. "You're a good granddaughter, but be careful it's not safe near the volcano." The small red dog barked happily as Leah and Jay left the house, its cheerful energy a brief relief from the seriousness of their task. They crossed the bridge and continued their journey, the farm now closer than ever. Leah and Jay continued their journey under the relentless sun. The road stretched endlessly ahead, flanked by fields of dry grass that swayed gently in the occasional breeze. The heat was exhausting, but the thought of their grandmother's request kept them moving. Every step felt like an effort, yet they pushed on, determined to fulfill her wish. As they walked, the siblings talked to pass the time. "Leah, do you think Grandma's stories about the well were true?" Jay asked, his voice tinged with doubt. "She believes they are," Leah replied. "And even if the water doesn't work, just knowing we tried will make her happy." Their conversation was interrupted by a faint noise in the distance. A bridge came into view, and beside it, a small house stood, surrounded by a simple garden. The siblings approached cautiously, curiosity piqued. A woman stepped out of the house, her warm smile inviting. At her side was a small red dog, its tail wagging energetically as it barked in greeting. "Hello there," the woman called out. "What brings you out here on such a hot day?" Jay wiped the sweat from his forehead. "We're going to our grandmother's farm. She wants water from the well there. She thinks it'll make her better." The woman raised her eyebrows. "That's quite a trek, especially in this heat. Why not take some water from my well?" "It's fresh and clean." Jay's face lit up. "That sounds like a good idea." "Leah, maybe we should know," Leah interrupted gently but firmly. "Thank you, but it's not just about the water. Grandma wants it from her farm's well." "That's what matters," the woman nodded, her expression softening. "You're a determined one, I'll give you that. Well, let me help you with some fresh water for your journey at least." She disappeared briefly into her house, returning with a pitcher of cold water and some biscuits. "You're learning so much with these stories, right? Now imagine achieving fluency with a method that adapts to your daily life. English Express is your chance to learn English for good. Click on the first pinned comment and unlock your potential. The siblings thanked her and sat by the bridge to rest. Jay shared a piece of sausage with the small red dog, who wagged its tail in approval. "At least someone's happy today," he said with a chuckle. Leah smiled, watching the dog play. For a moment, the weight of their journey lifted, replaced by the simple joy of the moment. "Thank you for your kindness," Leah said to the woman as they prepared to leave. "Be careful," the woman warned. "The farm's near the volcano, and it's not always safe." As they walked away, the red dog barked one last goodbye. The landscape grew quieter and more desolate. There were no houses, no animals, only the dry grass swaying in the warm breeze. The silence was eerie, broken only by the crunch of their footsteps. Jay stopped suddenly, his ears perking up. "Did you hear that?" he asked, looking around nervously. Leah paused, listening intently. The sound came again, a faint, low noise, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "It's just the wind," Leah said, trying to sound confident. Jay shook his head. "No, it's something else." "What if it's a ghost?" Leah rolled her eyes. "Jay, there are no ghosts. Let's keep going." Despite her reassurance, the strange sound lingered in the air, making Jay glance over his shoulder more than once. Leah, however, kept her focus on the path ahead, determined to reach the farm before the sun dipped below the horizon. Leah and Jay trudged on, their steps heavy with exhaustion. The dry, cracked earth beneath their feet seemed endless, stretching toward the hazy outline of the old farm in the distance. The once vibrant land was now silent, abandoned, with no signs of life except for the occasional rustling of the wind through the brittle grass. At last, they arrived. The farm was just as their grandmother had described in her stories: the old barn, the overgrown trees, and, in the center of it all, the well. It stood weathered and worn, its wooden cover partially broken. The sight filled Leah with a strange mix of nostalgia and unease. Jay approached the well hesitantly. "It doesn't look very safe," he said, peering into the darkness below. Leah knelt beside him, inspecting the thick rope tied to a rusty pulley. "We've come this far," she said firmly. "We have to do this." Together, they grasped the rope and began pulling. The pulley creaked loudly, protesting their efforts as the bucket slowly rose from the depths. It was heavier than they had anticipated, and their arms burned with the strain. Jay grunted, his face red with exertion. "What's in this thing?" "Rocks." Finally, the bucket emerged, its contents sloshing as they set it down carefully. Jay leaned over, wrinkling his nose. "This water smells awful," he said, stepping back. The liquid was murky and foul, far from the magical cure their grandmother had envisioned. Leah sighed, disappointment washing over her. But as she tipped the bucket to empty it, something glittered faintly in the sunlight. She paused, her heart skipping a beat. "Jay," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Look." Inside the bucket, nestled among the dirty water, were several small, shining objects. Leah reached in, her fingers closing around one. She held it up, and Jay's eyes widened. It was a gold coin, its surface worn but unmistakably valuable. "There's more," Jay exclaimed, reaching into the bucket to pull out another coin, and then another. Soon, the siblings had a small pile of gold at their feet. "These must be grandfather's coins," Leah said, her voice filled with awe. "Grandma always said he kept them hidden somewhere," Jay grinned. "Looks like we found them. But what do we do now?" Leah thought for a moment, her mind racing. "We take them home. This is part of her past, part of her memories. It belongs with her." They carefully placed the coins back into the bucket, covering them with a layer of oranges Jay had picked from a nearby tree. It was their way of keeping the discovery safe from prying eyes on the journey back. As they began their return trip, the air seemed to shift, growing heavier with each step. Leah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. But when she turned to look behind her, there was nothing, just the empty, desolate land. Jay, too, seemed on edge. "Do you hear that sound again?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Leah nodded, but she didn't reply. The eerie wind, or whatever it was, seemed to follow them, urging them to quicken their pace. The well had revealed its secret, and now the farm seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for them to leave. The siblings pressed on, their determination outweighing their fear. The farm and its secrets faded into the distance, and the weight of their discovery gave them a newfound sense of purpose. You're enjoying this journey, aren't you? Imagine learning English while living stories that captivate you. With English Express, you can do just that. Check the first pinned comment and start your adventure today. The journey back felt longer, the bucket heavy in Leah's hands. It wasn't just the weight of the gold coins or the oranges. It was the knowledge of what they carried, more than just treasure, but a piece of their family's history. Jay walked beside her, his usual playful demeanor subdued by the gravity of their discovery. As they approached the bridge, the familiar small house came into view. The friendly woman greeted them once more, her red dog barking excitedly. Back already? She asked with a smile. Did you find what you were looking for? Leah hesitated, glancing at the bucket in her hands. Yes, we did, she said simply, her voice carrying a mix of pride and relief. A group of boys suddenly appeared, their loud voices breaking the quiet atmosphere. What's in the bucket? One of them demanded, eyeing Leah and Jay suspiciously. Just some oranges, Jay said quickly, holding the bucket tightly. But the boys weren't convinced. They stepped closer, their intentions clear. Before anything could happen, the small red dog sprang into action. It barked fiercely, standing between the siblings and the boys. The boys hesitated, startled by the dog's sudden ferocity. The woman stepped out of her house, her presence enough to send the boys running. Thank you, Leah said, her heart pounding. Good dog, Jay added, giving the little canine an affectionate pat on the head. With the threat gone, Leah and Jay continued their journey. They passed the checkpoint where the soldier, now familiar, smiled at them. No magic water, he teased, glancing at the bucket. No, Leah replied with a small smile. Just some magic oranges. The soldier laughed and waved them through. Soon, the siblings found themselves at their front door, their hearts racing with anticipation. Inside, their grandmother lay in her bed, her eyes lighting up as they entered. Did you bring the water? She asked, her voice filled with hope. Leah knelt by her side, placing the bucket beside the bed. No, Grandma, she said gently. But we found something else. Look. She lifted one of the gold coins from the bucket and placed it in her grandmother's hand. The old woman stared at it, her eyes filling with tears. These are your grandfather's coins, she whispered. He always said they were safe in the well. The family gathered around, their curiosity giving way to laughter and joy as Leah and Jay shared the story of their adventure. For the first time in weeks, their grandmother smiled, a genuine, warm smile that brought a glow to her tired face. She looked at her husband's photograph, the gold coin clutched in her hand. Thank you, she said softly, her voice filled with love. The house was filled with laughter and a renewed sense of connection. The simple act of fulfilling a wish had brought them closer, creating a memory they would cherish forever. Did this story inspire you? Stories like this can make learning English a joyful journey. Subscribe to our channel now, and let's keep exploring and growing together.